in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content on info@millenniumnews24.com. Download the Millennium News 24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to Universal Pathway. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. And today I have the opportunity to be in the studio with a poet, a spoken word artist, as well as an author, Mr. Burnett Coburn. How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm alive and grateful, my brother. Happy to be with you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I just want to take the opportunity as well to do a quick, brief introduction.
Okay.
And I'm going to do my best because this gentleman has a very long history and has been impacting the goal. So let me do my best here in this brief bio. Born in St. Andrews, Jamaica on February 14th, 1958, Burnett Coburn has lived a life steeped in creativity and words. Educated at Oberlin High School and later at Jamaica High School of Drama at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. He majored in theater, directing before briefly teaching English language and literature. His journey eventually led him to the United States, where he continues to make his home currently. Mr. Burnett's passion for writing began at the early age of 11 years old, and he completed his first novel and mailed it to a New York publisher. Although his handwritten manuscript was returned with encouragement to keep developing his skills, that early initiative's spark became the foundation for his lifelong dedication to storytelling. His debut poetry collection, Sorbet and Sweet Potato Pudding, was published by Ian Randall and Company in Kingston, Jamaica, and Miami, Florida, quickly earned recognition for its heartfelt reflection on love. A second volume is expected in 2026, promising an even richer continuation of his poetic voice. His latest work, The Honeybee Chronicles, is scheduled for release in December of 2025. Further cementing his reputation as a writer whose words are joyful, uplifting, and filled with depth. In addition to publishing, Mr. Burnett has performed his poetry live across Jamaica, the Eastern Caribbean, the United States, Canada, Britain, and Ghana, sharing his artistry with audience worldwide. Our good brother is having a global impact. Through his writing and performance, Mr. Burnett invites readers and listeners alike to savor life's flavor, whether tender, bittersweet, or joyfully sweet. And he's always embracing his work from the spirit of love and just demonstrating a beautiful artistry throughout. Again, welcome, my good brother. How are you today?
Thank you for the welcome, my brother. I am alive and grateful. As you can see, I'm smiling all over because I'm hearing all these things and I'm saying to myself, wow, is that me?
Yes, it is.
Is this the boy who listened to Michael Jackson at age 10 and said, wow, Michael Jackson is 10 and I am 10, then I can do great things like Michael Jackson is doing.
Oh my God. Wow. You're definitely giving our audience some perspective.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. I guess if anyone influenced me to start, it might have been Michael Jackson, although I never thought about it until this moment. Because I am a farm boy from St. Andrew, hills of Jamaica. And I was in my father's cane field one evening when he had bought me what was called a pocket radio in those days. And well before your time, they used to have radios that could fit in the shirt pocket. And as a reward for working in his field, he bought me a small radio. And at the time I was 10. I couldn't do much though, but weed grass here and there and take the men who were working for him water and that kind of thing. So he bought me a radio as a reward. And one of the first songs I heard while in the cane field was, I think it might have been Michael Jackson and his brothers doing Ben. But I remember the impact it had on me when I said, wow, Michael is 10 and I'm 10, then there's hope for me. So here am I on your show today. So thank you, Michael. And
Yes.
thank you for having me, my brother.
Oh, it's definitely an honor here as well. I think just speaking to Michael Jackson, he's impacted the world tremendously. I remember seeing money where it was defaced of people putting Jerry curl on the money to make it look like Michael Jackson and then putting shades over it, right?
Sure. And that's what you call a global impact.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It's always a great thing to have those who have paved the way for us in such as an early age. Your father, being business minded, was able to impact you. You didn't find yourself trying to moonwalk or anything like that in the cane.
No, I didn't, because he was a man of the cloth and an old school man of the cloth.
Okay.
So anything outside of, I'd say, Pat Boone and Skeeter Davis and Billy Graham and Oral Roberts was taboo in the household in which I grew up.
Understood.
Of course, I rebelled quietly, and he told me years later, if I knew you were doing that, if I ever knew that you were doing that, which was sneaking out of the house to go to dances and parties and that kind of thing, because I wanted to experience the world.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, yeah, but nothing happened to me. I never ended up in jail or I never stole anything from anyone, or there's no bad name. There's no bad reputation affixed to my name. And he said, I saw.
Wow.
That's all he said. He said, I saw. So, yeah, my dad did play an important role in my life, too. Yes, certainly.
Yes, it's just interesting how this conversation is opening up. Of course, my first question was going to gear towards you being that 11-year-old, but now you brought us to 10, and you incorporate Michael Jackson and just the impact and the influence of your father. So clearly, on Universal Pathway, we always attempt to just open up and just remind our audience, and like you've already so wisely gleaned, you mentioned global impact. Universal pathways, the plural added to ways.
Love it.
Off screen, we were talking a little bit about the elephant, right? Can you share that story real quick with our audience pertaining to the elephant?
Well, I remember reading. I've always been an avid reader from the days I used to walk on the street and pick up sheets of paper blowing on the street. It would have been the Jamaica Gleaner at the time. So we're talking 1960s here. And I remember reading about 7 blind men who encountered an elephant, and each tried to share his impression of the elephant. So the first man who encountered the side of the elephant said the elephant is a wall, because the elephant, when he bumped into its side, it felt like a wall. And that was his frame of reference, being the fact that he could not see from his eyes. His eyesight had gone within as opposed to being without. The man who reached the elephant's legs, one of the legs of the elephant, said, when he put his arms around it, he said, surely the elephant is like the trunk of a tree. Because that was his experience. The elephant's legs felt like a tree to him. The man who encountered the tail of the elephant said the elephant is like a whip, because the tail is swishing and hitting him in his face. So he's going, it has to be a whip. But the man who encountered the trunk of the elephant said, no, the elephant is like a snake, because the elephant had wrapped its trunk around him. So each blind man encountered a different part of the elephant. None of them saw the whole vision or got the whole experience of the elephant, but each was right in its own way. So as we spoke off screen, when I saw your universal pathways, I felt a nice little feeling of warmth circling my heart. I'm a person who feels deeply. And I said, yes, it didn't say pathway as if this is the only way. It says pathways, and I like that.
Well said. Clearly, you're a deep thinker, and it's reflected in your poetry, it's reflected in your artistry, and just your ability to be able to glean things and open people's minds. Reflection is the business of man. Just like with the 7 perspective of that elephant, it is the hope here on Universal Pathways to have guests such as yourself to share your wisdom, to give our audience some perspective. And you've been getting inspiration since as early as 11 years old to be on your path as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And, the New York publisher, how did that moment of receiving that type of encouragement inspired you to keep writing and shape the course of just your creativity today?
Well, interestingly, it had, apart from feeling good about receiving letters, it had no major impact on me at the time. I must say that I was always one to fill out those free cards in magazines and periodicals.
Yes.
So when I went to my local post office, my mail would be waiting for me. It would have an elastic band or 2 around the mail when I entered.
Oh, wow.
Because I'd be getting mail from all over the world. If it has a free card right away for something, I was going to write away for it. So I was always involved in communicating with the outer world. When you're from an island, you have no choice but to look outwards.
Mm-hmm.
If you are from a continent, you tend to be self-sufficient on the continent. So you have rivers, seas, and everything on that continent. You can feed yourself. But when you're from an island, like the Greek, like the British, you tend to look outwards. So I just happened, for whatever reason, to be looking outwards from that very young age. I'm going to get back to your question, but I must say that the other person who influenced me at that time was Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King now, but the Martin Luther, the reformer.
Got it.
He was writing my book, Sorbet and Sweet Potato Pudding, and the upcoming book, The Honeybee Chronicles, have pictures in them. And it was because of that particular book, with not just written words, but pictures, that influenced me at age 10, age 11, that made me want to write books with colored pictures in them too. So coming back to everything, it's all the influences that you collect from all over the place that shapes you as an individual and brings you into the present in which we are, that you and I are able to converse now over the airwaves. I've never met you, you've never met me, but our spirit have met before, I'm quite sure. But we're meeting through the magic, or if not the magic, through the possibility that is provided through science. And you, my brother, are a man of science and faith and all of that, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. My immediate response to getting that letter was happiness, as of the other 23 I might have received that day, but it didn't particularly influence me to start writing or even to continue writing. What influenced me was just the fact that I kept on reading everything that I could get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
So that might have been forgotten. That act of writing a book, a novel at age 10, 11, and knowing to send it away. I was used to mailing stuff outside of the country. So it was easy for me to put a stamp on that, on the book. I don't know how I got the big envelope for the book. I never told my parents I had written the book. I never told my teachers. So maybe if I had told my teachers about it or told my parents, I would have been published at an early age, because they would have had it typed. They would have maybe attached a note saying Burnett is a 10-year-old rural, 11-year-old rural boy, and so forth. And I might have been published at that age. But I felt good to be in contact with the outside world at that age. So my global impact, whatever it is, however it manifests itself, started at that early age in the hills of St. Andrew, Jamaica.
Yes, it did. And just hearing you paint, you have a very good way of being able to paint pictures with words. And I see just how the pictures within books had an impact. It is said that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Indeed.
you allowed yourself to read as a very early age, all that reading to the now, it's like you're now pouring back into the very vortex, for lack of a better word, that fed you. So it's been said that if you want to hide anything from people that look like me and you, put in a book. Right?
That was just made up by malicious people, because it's not true. I know too many of us who just love to read and to explore ideas and search for useful answers that can be implemented to make the lives of not just us, but the world a better place. Because that is our major mission, to make the world a better place, a more livable, a more habitable place.
Well said. And you give a lot of credit to just the byproduct of St. Andrew and being a storyteller. Can you just expound upon that, your influence to be able to tell stories and make connectivity? Because clearly you listen well and you're able to now project that in a simple way to clear up some of the misconceptions that we as a people might have. For instance, the idea that we don't read books. Clearly it is false. So what are some of those falsehoods as a storyteller that you find yourself dispelling as you now have your journey as a storyteller, poet, and author?
Black men don't take care of their children, or men who are called black men based on the color of our skins don't take care of their children. It's one of the biggest myths I've ever encountered, because I am a product of a father who took care of his children, and I know many such fathers. I have many friends who maybe take better care of their families and their children than they do themselves.
Well said.
Yeah. So that's one of the myths about that reading, that we don't read, that we're lazy. How could we be lazy when we have helped to create the wealth of the world? When capitalism sits on our back, it sits on the labor that we've provided for the world. I know some of the listeners might have read Milton Friedman's Capitalism, Capitalism and Freedom, with positing that, well, capitalism was built off the people's freedom to do what they want. But the people who were planting the cotton and the tobacco and the cane and working in the mines, were these people free to create wealth? Or were they bound in chains and creating at the behest of other people? These are questions that I attempt to answer in the work that I do, and the myths I try to help to dispel.
Would you say that memory plays a part in dispelling these myths? And what I mean by that is this. Sometimes we come into a room or a situation and we come in with certain assumptions. For instance, in North America, a similar scenario happened, right? Where there's this Juneteenth celebration 2 years after the people who were picking cottons told that they're free. Yet in Texas, you still had people who, for whatever reason, the powers that be, were not incentivized to let them know, because they needed that harvest. And it took them a while before they even learned that they were free. Now, picture for a moment that the story told of slave ships bringing us here is a myth as well. And we were actually here. But within one generation of actually forcefully preventing people who love to read from reading, they now start to see the people who colonized them, for instance, wearing their clothes, wearing their culture. And they now, the generation that grows up, who are now taught, guess what? Don't look certain people in the eye. It's better to do this. If not, you might be put on 4 horses and torn apart in front of your family, which create this aspect to say the melanated man cannot take care of his family. So now that's a part of a generation who now, when they do read books, they're reading books that's told and stories that's told from the colonizer's perspective. They no longer have that original connected roots and those vibes. And I'm sure, as one who now has the Rastafarian culture ingrained, such as yourself, there's so much myths that's been put in place. Can you speak to that a little bit, where we might be building upon a foundation, but it has some gaps in it because we're not seeing ourselves rightfully as those business owners? In other words, the person who's now picking the cotton can actually sharecrop or pick the cotton for themselves and be productive. But because we were doing it for somebody else, I'm tired. I don't want to do that anymore. How can I get a good job?
Learning for me is a lifelong event, a lifelong process. For instance, when I signed up for Facebook, it was my son who put up my picture. I'd signed up, but I didn't know how to put up the picture.
Okay.
I did not grow up with the technology. The computers that I grew up with were huge monoliths inside of rooms with cooling fans and that kind of thing.
Yes.
He grew up with the technology. So I said, Dad, you don't have a picture, bang, bang, bang. And it was up. Yeah, it's a lifelong thing. I'm also reminded from early that what was hidden from the wise and prudent is now revealed to the babes and suckling. I don't know if you must have, I'm thinking you must have heard that.
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
So learning is a lifelong thing. I don't think any of us have all of it. We're, to me, like the blind men who came to the elephant. So at any time, what you have learned as opposed to what you believe can be moved over with new knowledge, with more relevant, more cogent knowledge than you had before. Because what we're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. It's merely one grain on the billions of and hundreds of billions of grain on the beach that we're sunbathing or that we're just strolling along. It's a lifelong learning process. What I know now, I didn't know it 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Even as a man who is in his 60s now, I'm feeling my knees creaking when I'm going down the steps that I didn't feel 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm learning now that I cannot run down the steps as I used to. I need to take my and hold on to the rails now. Because as they say, you born them old, if you're born them broke, you know it can't set, you know. So so it's a lifelong learning process, my brother, and we're engaged in the process of learning. And I apologize, I'm sorry. One thing about it is that old knowledge, or what we consider to be old knowledge, can be replaced by new knowledge.
Well said. As you were speaking, it kind of reminds me of a Moorish saying as well that is taught by with, Prophet Noble Jawali, a book that we have, a pamphlet. It's called The Circle Seven. In it, it says a man ideal is his God. And man's ideal today, is not man's ideal tomorrow. I'm paraphrasing. So in other words, as our ideal change, our God change. And there's a distinction between God as in the universal creator that animates all of us. But we think about ideal and ideas. And like you said, learning is a continual process. And there's a distinction between knowledge and belief. Once we know something, it's a part of our very essence. Whereas belief can be unproven, it could be theories. But knowledge itself becomes sound. There's certain knowledge that really don't change. The fact that you and I breathe air for our bodies to continue to be animated, that's just knowledge. And if the air becomes toxic, it could be detrimental. So with that being said, and I just want to touch on a little bit pertaining to your roots, the Rastafarian influence. How did you come into where your hair is locked and you're now a part of that philosophy that's such a huge part of Jamaica and just the global world at large? I mean, I know it does not originate in Jamaica. It's beyond that. But can you speak to that pertaining to some of the wisdom that you're sharing, whether it be in your books and just everyday life, like you're saying, always learning?
My dad being a man of the cloth, I grew up reading the Bible. And one Sunday, for some reason, I stayed home from church and I heard a Rastaman preaching on the radio.
Okay.
In Jamaica. And what he said to me resonated with me more than what I was hearing in church, because he localized Bible stories to Trenchtown and St. Mary and St. Andrew and Papine, as opposed to Nazareth and Syria and Palestine, Israel. He localized it in a way that it came home to me. It's like the story I told about seeing a picture of Martin Luther, the reformer, riding a horse barefoot. At that time, I used to ride my father's horses barefoot. So it resonated with me more than hearing about Palestine and Israel and Syria and that kind of thing. And this is so I connived to stay home from church one weekend per month now, just so I could hear this Rastaman preach. And I didn't get to talk to him until 40 or 50 years later, and I realized it was Ras Michael from the group Ras Michael and the Sons of Negos. Or Negus, yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know until many years later that it was him who did it. So at that early age, I started to pay attention. Also, the Rastas were the most despised in the community.
Uh-huh.
And they used to be living far from the communities, and they'd always be raided by the policemen. They'd be beaten up and, as they say in Jamaica, batter bruised. One afternoon, I came home for lunch, and on my way out the gate, there was a Rastaman riding a bicycle past my parents' home. My cousin was there, and I remember him now, muscular, young, vibrant, with no shirt on. His muscles were rippling. And he said to my cousin, "Love sister." And she said to him in the Jamaican vernacular, "Go away, dirty Rasta boy. Who could I love a dirty Rasta boy like you?"
Wow.
No, this is my most Christian of cousins.
Uh-huh.
She's so traditional. She died last year, unfortunately. And I went to her funeral. I had to tell the story. She never processed her hair. She didn't do makeup. She never wore pants. I'm just saying, as a traditional Christian,
Yes.
she never did these things. And yet, when a man passed and said, "Love sister" to her, she chastised him. And I think that is the moment when I started to look deeper into the Rastafari philosophy. I often talk to her over the years and saying, "You're the one who is responsible for my Rastafari journey." Because had you embraced that Rastaman and merely said, "Thank you, brother," and he went on his way, I would not have looked into it. What's interesting, he did not curse her. He said nothing. He just kept on going. In those days, primary schools were from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. And here we are at school that evening at 4 p.m. and the children are scared to come out of the schoolyard. They are scared.
Wow.
And I am going, what are you guys scared of? So if there's any leadership abilities that I developed, it started that day when I held the hands of 2 children and led about 40 children out of the schoolyard.
Wow. You see?
And that for me manifested the power of Rastafari.
Wow.
It planted the seeds of first hearing the word love at, say, noon, between noon and 1, possibly for the first time in my life. Listening to Ras Michael on the radio, preaching from the very Bible my dad preached from, in a way that I overstood it, because we don't say understand as part of the Rastafari philosophy. It's about rising up and elevating ourselves from the drudgery of slavery and emancipating ourselves from colonialism and neocolonialism. From that genesis, then I started to sneak away to Rasta camps to listen to the teachings.
Yes.
Because they were feeding me something that my spirit was asking for that I was not getting from my dad. I could be sure to get the straight-laced version of literal interpretations of the Bible from Daddy, but not the nuances that I was hearing there that reflected my everyday living reality. And that is how I started to walk that pathway.
Wow. Thank you for that. Well said. You're making just your life for our audience very relevant, to kind of give them what to expect as we go deeper into your books and you now letting us know what's within those pages. With that being said, we're going to go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back in the next minute.
Okay, sir.
Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill. And today we have within the studio with us my good brother. Clearly, he's a poet, but I hear a philosopher as well in there. He represents well the island of Jamaica. He's now living by with the United States right here in America, and his influence is global. We have no other than Mr. Burnett Coburn. Welcome back, my good brother. Coburn.
Burnett Coburn.
Burnett Coburn.
Coburn, yes.
Well, you're living up to that English teacher.
May I share a story with you?
Yeah, please
regarding
do.
my name?
Yes.
And me as an agent of change?
Yes, please do.
So, both parents are deceased, and my father and mother living in the same home with 6 children. When my dad died, he's the only member of the family with the original spelling of my name. My name was spelled Cockburn.
Wow.
So I got tired.
Wow.
I got tired of telling the teachers that the CK is silent. So, the
Wow.
British have a way of spelling knife KNIFE, and the K is silent. It's pronounced NIFE. So
Yes.
I was COCKBURN, and the CK is silent. But when you're a child and you're being called Cockburn regularly.
Oh my goodness. You had a lot of courage telling that story today.
Yes. So I'm thinking of Ralph Lauren. I'm told that his name was Lawrence Lifshitz. Yeah, Ralphie Lifshitz. In the Eastern European way of pronunciation. I might have butchered it. But it's no fault, it's no surprise to me that he changed it to Ralph Lauren, because I also changed mine from Burnett COCKBURN to COBURN.
Understood.
Yes. So yeah, that's the story of which is explained my idea of, if you don't like something and it's not working to your benefit, then at least attempt to change it for the better.
Well said.
You might not succeed. And even if you don't succeed fully, you might succeed partially because you have attempted to do something about it. And that is merely my mission in the world. I'm attempting to do something about the things I see around me, to make the bright brighter and to make the dark lighter.
And it's interesting you said that, because it's very prophetic, that nature. And the truth is, we all have attributes that are prophetic within us. Marcus Garvey, we spoke about him earlier, right, off camera. His impact to leave Jamaica, you were saying that he might have ended up being a local politician. but
Yes,
here
sir.
he had global impact.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, if you are convinced that the path you are on is the correct path, and it will lead to the edification and the liberation of those who need it, then at least attempt to share it. But at the same time, don't attempt to impose it on people at the edge of the sword, at the tip of a bomb, or the tip of a whip. Share the knowledge, because when the student is ready, the teacher will always come along.
Well
I
said.
believe that based on what life has taught me over the years. It was that final moment when I went into the class and the teacher said, "Burnett Coburn." And I said for the very last time in a classroom, "The teacher is silent, miss." I never said that to a teacher again because it became Burnett Coburn from that day on.
Wow.
Two syllables.
Yes, that's a very bold and powerful move. And thank you for correcting me, because I would not want to refer to you, my good brother. It's like, huh? Oh.
I don't mind. I don't mind, because it gives me a chance to expound and to make corrections where corrections are necessary or accepted, because not everyone wishes or likes to be corrected either. So if you didn't want to accept it, then I would have merely said, "Okay, my brother, go ahead."
But you know, Mr. Burnett,
Yes,
it's
sir.
interesting. There's something that's innately and naturally in all of us. And I think it's a part of that spirit. Like you said, the word resonate. What resonated with you coming through the airwaves was what Mr. Michael was teaching, as opposed to what your father, the Christianity, you didn't resonate with it from that perspective. But when this Rastafarian demonstrated, when you saw the love and the clash between how your Christian relative responded, you start to naturally make adjustment because something resonated with you. And that's our hope today, that something resonate with what you're saying as it pertains to your book, your poetry, and the world that you're doing globally. So with that being said, can you speak a little bit to us about your first work and inspiration, specifically your collection, sorbet and sweet potato pudding blends? You kind of, you know, it's like my mouth is already salivating. Like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking food. What inspired the name? Yes.
I think one of the things my colleague Hugh Stoltz, who wrote the introduction, said that my life is packed with a multiplicity of sensory experiences. So my desire is for the world to be happy, as fleeting as it might be, to live a full life and to enjoy, or the Rastaman will say, full joy.
Yes.
Whatever is there for you, whatever is there in the world, beginning the world without end, where everything we need is here, right here on earth. And if it's not available in one country or one village or one town, it's available in the next. That gives us a chance to make connections. And I once heard, I think it might have been in the movie Aristotle and Assis or something, where the guy said the people who do business together rarely go to war. I'm not sure if that's where it came from, but that came readily to mind. My attempt is really to make connections, and as much as possible to put smiles on the faces of people. I encountered a lot. I didn't know I'd end up writing poetry that is considered love poetry. My wife said it's inevitable because I was born on the day that they claim to be Valentine's Day.
Wow.
But this collection of poetry, sorbet and sweet potato pudding, happens to be my favorite dessert. I don't do dairy, I don't do ice cream, so it became sorbet, this cold sorbet on top of a hot slice of sweet potato pudding that makes you go, yeah, that's what I like. But there's a story also behind the title of this book. At a certain point, at the beginning, writing poetry that is considered love poems, but it was really a poetry that is trying to say to my melanated sisters that we as melanated brothers love and respect you. So I was one day, I had no title. It was just a collection of poems. And I wasn't even working on that. I'm going to tell you what I was working for. You mentioned philosopher. Yeah. And there might be a hidden philosopher inside of me, because I was working on a collection of essays and poems called The Inner Side of the Outer Door. Mm-hmm. That's what I was working on at that time. I have not touched it in over 8 or 10 years, but it's still there to be worked on. Mm-hmm. So I was downtown. By now I'd started to put this collection together. And my son is coming up too, who is heavily melanated and taller than I am. Most tall Black men in this society in the world are feared. And I wanted him to at least have something to refer to, that my dad not only has this rough side, this Rastafari rough side, but there's also a softer side to that. And that's part of my motivation. But we were downtown, Okunora, the dub poet Okunora and I, one of my influences, one of my mentors. And we were walking around. I don't know if you're familiar with Okunora.
No.
Okunora is one of the founders, if not the founder, of the dub poetry movement in the world.
Oh, wow.
Him along with Linton Kwesi Johnson in England.
Yes.
LKJ, I hear, is going to be downtown Brooklyn in a few days, too, at BAM. Gene Breeze, who is deceased, Brother Zephaniah from Birmingham, I think. Who else was there? Claudette Richardson, Mikey Smith, a poet who did a poem called Me Can't Believe It. Room for Rent may apply with him, but as me come in, rat, mice, and everything else come in. He was killed. He got a poetic death. He was stoned to death in Stony Hills in Jamaica.
Wow.
As what we consider to be a revolutionary poet. So Uku we consider him, Uku, to be the father of dub poetry. We're walking around downtown one day and we encountered some sisters who had clearly bleached their skins. In the 98 degrees in the shade in Jamaica, they were wearing hoodies. And one sister was actually engaged in the act of processing another sister's hair on the sidewalk. And I can be a bit of a, I don't know if it's called troublemaker, yeah? So I went up to her and I said, why is a beautiful woman like you, why are you processing your hair? And, oh my God, you bleach? Why on the bleach? And the girl said something profoundly to me that I considered profound. She said to me, which I immediately took out my phone, I write in notes on my phone and I scribble it. We want brown like the girl them uptown. We want to have brown skin like the girl them uptown, like the girls uptown. And for those who don't know about Kingston, Jamaica, the lighter skinned people live uptown and the darker skinned people live downtown. It is part of that instant hierarchy that you notice. The congestion of the so-called ghetto, where the darker skinned people live, and the wide lawns and huge houses and mansions where the lighter and brighter skinned people live. So I said to her, oh my God, you don't need to do that. You're as sweet as sorbet and sweet potato pudding. And she said to me, our name, so.
Oh my God.
I said, just consider crushed fruit and ice. Something that's finely crushed. And immediately I got the idea for the title of the poem. And wherever Steve Jobs is in the universe, in the ether, wherever, I thank you for putting the yellow pad in the iPhone, because immediately I wrote down the title and it became the title. But on a deeper note, about 2 years ago, I was reading and it hit me that a story my mother told me that I had not remembered in choosing the title. She said that her father planted Irish potatoes, while my father, being a farmer, planted sweet potatoes.
Wow.
So she grew up loving sweet potatoes more than Irish potatoes. So when she met Daddy, as a man who planted a lot of sweet potatoes, she said to him, "You will never be able to plant enough sweet potatoes to satisfy my love of sweet potatoes."
Wow.
That came to me maybe 6 years after I wrote the book, that there was a connection between the sweet potato pudding that I love so much and my mother's love of sweet potato, my father planting sweet potato. Him being a man of the cloth, he also did not believe in the 10% tithes and offering. He said to me repeatedly, "I work with my hands so that my gospel may not be defiled. I am the shepherd, and the shepherd should have to give to the sheep, and not the sheep should not be expected to take care of the shepherd."
Wow.
So I come from a rich history of working to prove yourself, and also a tradition of working with your hands. Incidentally, I work with my hands in New York. I install and refinish wooden flooring for a living. So the poetry is the sorbet on top of all of that.
See, the audience has experienced your way to actually paint pictures, imagery with words, and that's truly a gift. You invoke the thought. It says, "Be the message we bring." You're definitely the embodiment of the message you bring, whether it be the message that your mother resonated with in her love for sweet potatoes, and your father being the embodiment of a master planter of sweet potatoes. So you have the father element planting the seed, and you have the mother element receiving the seed, and now you're the byproduct.
Yes, sir. And I'm sharing the fruits of that seed with the rest of the world.
Yes.
In a loving way, and with no wish to beat anyone over the head with a cudgel, but to really say, "Here is food, come and eat."
Abundance.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it is here. Everything we need in the world is here for us. One person doesn't need to have $1 billion or $400 billion while 1 billion people have nothing. There's no need for that. Because all you're doing is storing it up in a barn, and you're going to die and leave it. Nothing is wrong with having abundance. But when your abundance comes at the expense of other people's lives and their misery, then we have to work to at least say to people, you don't have to settle for someone constantly riding on your back. You can stand up and shake them off.
Well said. Very strong words, very strong posture. And I could see just even your ability to be able to go where the knowledge was being given off. You'd use word like you would sneak off. But, is it really sneaking when you have a calling? Like, I could see people hearing your words and they say, look, I need to go and hear Mr. Burnett wherever he's speaking at, because he's dropping some jewels and it resonates. So your book, give us some of the feedback that ones have now given to you, or just, you've seen.
If I may,
yes.
Cover of the book, a well-worn copy, as you can see. This is the one I read from. I don't know if you can see it clearly.
Yes.
And on the back is a picture of myself and a few words explaining how it came about. So back to sorbet and sweet potato pudding. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
If you could share one of the points from that, which one would it be? And can you do just that, to kind of have ones kind of see what it is that they'll be hearing in getting a copy of your work?
Let me see what I can share. The favorite, which I seem to have to read at every outing, is something called Ebony Brown.
Okay.
I have this friend called Marjorie Brown, and maybe, I don't know if she wanted me to blare her name to the world, but since she's the inspiration, she had no choice, because, again, causality. If she had not said to me, Oh, you write poems for all of your friends. How come you never wrote a poem for me? And we were actually talking on WhatsApp. So this poem was written live on WhatsApp. I mean, it was
Wow.
edited later on, but it was written. She happens to be called Marjorie Brown, and I entitled the poem Ebony Brown. And
Okay.
a play on words. Ebony, she's extremely black in terms of her skin. She's
Yes.
heavily melanated.
Indeed.
And I started a play on words. So this is Ebony Brown. And normally this is a call and answer poem. So usually when I say they call her Ebony Brown, the crowd would say, but she is black. So here we go. Ebony Brown. They call her Ebony Brown.
But she's melanated.
She's melanated. Ebony Brown. Again, they call her Ebony Brown, but she's melanated. I'm switching the word black for melanated now, right?
Yes.
They call her Ebony Brown, but she's melanated. Sweet Java summer sunshine, equatorial gem of the rarest kind. She walks on hot coals, radiating heat and light, compressing cosmos into desktop globes. She sends fire blazing across Babylon, burns Rome to the ground. Men and people bow before her and attempt uselessly to hide evil deeds and malicious intent. They call her Ebony Brown,
But she's melanated.
but she's melanated. I lick her fingers in time to the drum beats of my heart. Sweet, sticky sauces satisfy midnight cravings. Hot pepper treats, the night foods of somnambulists, feed billions. Fire gushes, exploding from a bottomless well of silence. Something stirs deep inside of me. She feeds my conflagrations with perfume kindling. This ancient modern woman, Miss Ebony Brown, they call her Ebony Brown, but she
she's
is
melanated.
melanated. Ebony Brown, this mystical magician, author of my multicolored meanderings, makes all things beautifully melanated. Silence explode into odes as she stokes the volcanoes of my universe. Vesuvius pales in insignificance. Kilimanjaro rocks to the music of her exhalations. Victoria Falls fall in abeyance. Genuflecting nuns and prostrate priests in dire need of resurrection cry. And I, humbled and satiated, smile the smile of the forever blessed. They call her Ebony Brown, but I know she is melanated.
Wow.
Ebony Brown.
Yes, they call her Ebony Brown, but she's melanated. Very powerful, very impactful. And I could see just the embodiment of your love, like you said, for the melanated woman.
Yes,
and just the abundance that comes to our planet by lifting our women up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is our roles as brothers, melanated man, to uplift our first teacher.
Yes, sir.
Women.
Our first
Women.
house. Our
Yes.
first place of abode.
Yes. Honest
For
to
9
you.
months of nurturing, and we're doing everything there, eating, sleeping, whatever else we do there. And the mother, the melanated woman, takes care of all of our needs until, let's say, maybe age 7, when we can totter about and say, come here, don't go too far. Mind Maka juke you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
A protective nature. Yes.
yes, sir. We give thanks.
Honor.
In fact, one of the first stories my father told me, he was a great storyteller, and one of the first stories he told me was about an enslaved woman taking her male son off the plantation, and she had stored goods off the plantation or at the edge of the plantation. So this day she picked a fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's a grapefruit or an orange, and she pretended it was a ball and she threw it. And the child ran after it. The son ran after it. And she threw it further and the child ran after it. And this is how she got her son to the edge of the plantation that she could steal away.
Wow.
Who knows whether she was going to Harriet Tubman's group of people, but she had already made her escape in broad daylight with her child, her male son, who she could not afford to allow to grow up under enslavement. Thank you, Daddy.
Wow. Very profound, which kind of segue into my next question. I'll put the question out there, but we're going to go to a commercial as well. But the segue is just healing. And I see the healing aspect of that mother want to free her child and herself. And poetry, your words, painting those imagery is just reminding us of how our nature needs to be based upon love. So when we come back from the commercial, I would like for you to just speak to, what role has your poetry played in healing, inspiring, and uniting people across culture. So with that being said, this is Universal Pathway. I'm right here today with Mr. Burnett Coburn, and we'll be right back after this commercial. Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome back. I'm Curtis Douglas Hill, and today I'm here in the studio with poet, spoken word artist, author, philosopher, Mr. Burnett Coburn. Very great representation of not only his mother, but his father as well, and just a son of the global planet, the one humanity, in way he demonstrate and articulate himself. Very good mastery of the English language. He's taught in schools, and now he's teaching globally, inspiring many. So with that being said, prior to the commercial, I'd asked the question, and I'd like for him to expound upon it. How does he see his poetry, his work, just helping with the healing that our planet needs so much? You have the floor.
Actually, the next poem I plan to read for you is not from sorbet and sweet potato pudding. It's called The Healing Poem.
Wow.
It's right in front of me. It's here. The Healing Poem. So it's
okay.
Yeah. We are definitely in tune. We are in sync. Because you didn't know that. I never told you I was going to read outside of sorbet and sweet potato pudding. During the pandemic, I happen to like social media for the reach that it allowed me. Economically, I sold 189 books before I had a book to sell. By merely talking about it on Facebook, I was able to sell 189 books in that manner. I managed to sell some on Instagram before my account was rudely taken away from me, and they were telling people I was buying yachts and they should buy cryptocurrency from me. But that's another story. But during the pandemic, I posted words of encouragement and so forth. And towards the end of the pandemic, someone got in touch with me from Brussels, one of my Facebook friends. This is a person I've never met and I might never meet. And I think I had posted that day that I refuse to be consumed by fear. And she said to me at that time, I have feasted on your words. I love your, I think she might have said erotic poetry. I don't consider my poems to be erotic. There's messages wrapped up in each of them. If you cut the sweet potato pudding with a sharp enough knife, you're going to encounter the messages. But what she said to me when you posted that day about refusing to be consumed by fear, it bolstered my spirits, because at that moment I was consumed by fear. At the time in which we live, this particular time, with what's happening in the world, a lot of my colleagues are consumed by fear. Poets, artists, journalists were being fired willy-nilly just for speaking the truth. And I asked myself, why were we told something like, speak the truth and speak it ever, cause it what it will? He or she who hides the wrong you did does the wrong thing still. If there are such grave conscious consequences to truth telling, why were we not told to lie and get over? And I'm forced to answer myself. The reason is, it is the right thing to do. It is the correct, it is the appropriate thing to do. Speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will. That is it. So I find I often read at the tribute to the ancestors on Coney Island on the boardwalk. And in many cases, I find people coming up to me and thanking me for what I've delivered. I have a poem that's entitled We Shall Win. And it's the favorite of many of the people on the boardwalk. I rarely do the boardwalk and not do the poem We Shall Win. So, you know, but healing is a big part of what I look about, because everything can be healed. One interesting thing, when I went to drama school, there was a woman at drama school who was a very, I don't know, I think in Jamaica the word for it is bumptious, is that she would have been a social climber, and she had airs and graces, which were rudely laughed at behind her back. So she got out of place with me one day, and as they say, I put her in her place, quote unquote, right? Not rudely, but firmly. So when it was time for our final directing pieces, the people in the faculty put us to work together. No, I had not spoken to this lady for about 2 years. We had not spoken for about 2 years, although we were going to the same classes for 2 years, we had not spoken. So we circled each other for 3 days. And then I realized she would never come talk to me. So I went over to her and I called her name and I said, I don't think you like me, and I don't particularly like you, but we're being forced to work together here and we need to work together. And she said to me, Lord of mercy, Burnett Coburn, why are they doing this to us, see?
Wow.
This is the calmest I've ever seen, because she had a way of, when she's being rude to people, she blew up like a balloon. And that day she said to me, Lord of mercy, Burnett Coburn, why are they doing this to us, see? And I said, well, you know, we have to work together to get our directing pieces out, so we'd better work together. And she said, true.
Wow.
That's healing.
Yes, it is.
We can never be too high. We should never be too high on our horses. And I'm sorry, in the case of Hannibal, maybe elephants, that we think we cannot humble ourselves before a little child. We should always be able to think about ourselves as living, breathing creation, and we all breathe the same air. The air that comes out of my mouth or my nostrils often goes into yours. We're interdependent, and we should at all costs try to at least be civil with each other. So that is the basis of my healing. And a rising tide lifts all non-leaky ships. So I can only get better if you get better. If I take the hindrances out of your way and allow you to get better at doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for that wisdom, insight, and just sharing that personal example of that immediate healing that you were able to bring to a colleague.
Mhm.
Um,
And myself.
and yourself. Well
Because
said. It's reciprocal. It was mutual.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
We stopped circling each other at that moment. The 2 year, let's say ice, for want of because
Yes.
ice is not going to be in Jamaica, but let's say ice for the purposes of this
Correct.
discussion. Yeah, that was broken at that
Yes.
stage. We never really became friends, but we became tolerant of each other from that day. And we both did two beautiful directing pieces.
Wow.
So this is in all you'll hear from me. My stories are colored by personal experiences, and
I see that.
I try to share my personal experiences as much as possible in order to allow others to explore their very own lives for their personal experiences that they can harness and share with other people to help to make this world a more livable place.
Beautiful. With that being said, you're in Brooklyn. Next performance is coming up. Can you just let our audience know that real quick as we prepare to close?
I don't have all of the information about the next performance. I think it's going to be held in Brooklyn on the 4th of October. No, it is going to be held in Brooklyn, but I think the date is going to be the 4th of October. But I'll certainly get in touch with you, my brother, and share once it's agreed upon. The date is agreed upon. We were supposed to perform on the 20th of this month in Brooklyn at the Magnolia Center, but we're told that Linton Kwesi Johnson, the dub poet, is going to be at BAM. So with Linton being in town, he's siphoning 75% of our poetry audience.
Yes.
So I think it's being the 4th of October is being actively considered as the date for the next event.
Okay. And again, honors to Mr. Carl Gray from the YGB Awards for allowing this connection and introduction to yourself. We look forward to having you back on Universal Pathways. Is there a social media that one could reach you at and to get your books as well?
Yes, sir. First, I want to say thank you for having me. I want to say thank you for Mr. Gray, who made the introduction. Hey, Mr. Gray, you're doing a good job with your awards, brother. I salute you. And I'm happy to be here. I'm just sorry that we don't have 4 hours to spend because I think we could go on forever. And
yes.
I let you know when the Honeybee Chronicles drop, which my grandfather and my uncle and my bigger brother reared these. So the Honeybee Chronicles is not far-fetched. It's a small book that I want this one that people can be able to put it in their pockets, in their coat pockets. A woman can put it in her pocketbook and read it on the train or on the plane. I think it's called a chapbook, but it has pictures in there and that kind of thing. So we're working on that. I am active on Facebook and Instagram. And my phone number, if I may give it here.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Is 917-754-9680. My email address is poet, P-O-E-T, Burnett Coburn, B-U-R-N-E-T-T, COBURN @gmail.com. So the email address is poetburnettcoburn@gmail.com. My website is burnettcoburn.com. That's BURNETTCOBURN.com.
Awesome. It's great talking to you, and I definitely look forward to having you on the show again. And honest to you, may your day continue to unfold well. And thank you for our listening audience and our viewers worldwide who are listening today. I trust that ones have been edified. And thanks to the Universal Pathways show staff and the Millennium News 24 network here as well. Honest to everyone technically and our crew in the background. And peace and love to you all. And thank you again, Mr. Coburn.
Peace and love, my brother. I'm happy to be here, and calling me anytime. I'll come grace you. And I'd like to come into your studios one day too, man. So we
Awesome.
can chop it up face to face. But peace
Yes.
and love, my brother.
Same to you, my good brother. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
This is Universal Pathway. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill.